Hey everyone, it's Craig Campbell from Pastor Craig's Vintage Cards, and this is kind of part two on the 1969 football cards. These are cards that I do not have graded, and a lot of these are actually probably cards that I had when I was a kid or picked them up years ago. I've had these for a long time, and most of them are in pretty rough shape, but I just wanted to run through them just real quick and just show them here and just kind of get them on video, I guess. But Dick Whitaker, end for the 49ers. And Greg Larson, I always remember this card for some reason. He was a center for the New York Giants. Looked like he had makeup on his lipstick on or something. I always thought that was kind of strange when I was a kid. But that card is probably, you can see the corner. That's an original from when I was a kid. Chuck LaTourette, defensive back for the St. Louis Cardinals. And this is the great Bobby Mitchell. He was an end for the Washington Redskins. You can see the card's pretty bad. This is one from when I was a kid. Dave Parks, end for the New Orleans Saints. And Clifton McNeil, a flanker, which would be a wide receiver for the 49ers. Frank Ryan, quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And Johnny Robinson, Detroit Lions defensive back. W.K. Hicks, and you can see again how off-centered it is from top to bottom. His name is almost cut off on the bottom, and you can see the beginning of the card on the top there. W.K. Hicks, defensive back for the Oilers. Bruce Gossett, he was a kicker for the L.A. Rams. Earl Leggett, I already have that one slabbed, so that goes in that pile there. The great Floyd Little from the Denver Broncos. He was a great running back back in the day. Just a guy that really is probably pretty underappreciated when we talk about great running backs. Jim Keys, a kicker for the Miami Dolphins. And the thing that I remember about that card is number 52 as a kicker. He looks more like a linebacker or a offensive lineman like a center. Yeah, Jim Keys. And Tommy Davis, a kicker for the San Francisco 49ers. Just interesting, the pose there, getting ready to punt the ball and drop it against that bright yellow background. Jim Turner, he was a kicker for the New York Jets. Dave Wilcox, linebacker for the 49ers. Pretty good player, too. Didn't see too many linebackers, number 64 back in the day. And then you got Wendell Hayes, a running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. He always looked really mad in that picture, like, what are you talking about? I remember that as a kid. And here's some other ones here. Buck Buchanan, he was a great player. Big, bad Buck Buchanan. That's what my dad used to say about him. Buck was a big guy for back in the day. I mean, you look at his height, 6'7", 287 back in the late 60s. He was a big man. And I remember my dad used to always refer to him as Big Bad Buck Buchanan. Billy Kilmer, pretty darn good quarterback. And he bounced around. He was actually with the Redskins, I think, when they went to the Super Bowl. And Don Perkins, running back for the Dallas Cowboys. And Gene Howard, defensive back for the Saints. Interesting pose there. Mick Tingelhoff, center for the Minnesota Vikings. Willie Richardson, wide receiver for the Colts. Tom Nowatzki, a running back for the Detroit Lions. And my dog Lucky just woke up, decided to shake his head there. You heard his ears flopping. Craig Morton, quarterback, Dallas Cowboys. Fred Cox, flat top Fred Cox, kicker, Minnesota Vikings. If that doesn't scream old man 1960s, I don't know what does. Jim Katkavich. Jim Katkavich, defensive end for the New York Giants. Danny Abramowitz, receiver for the Saints. Pretty good receiver, number 46. I always remember his number didn't match his position. But yeah, Dan Abramowitz, he was a good receiver. And here you got Mike Clark, which is interesting because he's wearing a Steelers shirt, but he's playing for the Cowboys. He's a kicker, number 83. You can see again right there, there's a bad fish eye. They just jump out on these cards. They're really hard to find that way. Mad Dog Mike Curtis. He was a heck of a linebacker. He looks like a pretty pleasant guy there, but man, when he strapped the helmet on, he was not. Great player. He earned that name, Mad Dog. Mike Curtis. Really good. Dan Grimm. He always looked pissed off to me. Dan Grimm, guard for the Atlanta Falcons. And he does not look like he wants to have his picture taken, or he's squinting, looking into the sun, or something. I don't know. This is a kind of a cool punting card. Bobby Walden for the Steelers. Looks like he's wearing a Vikings uniform there. Purple and white, gold trim. Tom Kalkloff. Yeah, Tom Kalkloff for the Patriots. And I've always loved the Patriots logo. That old logo, I just think it is so cool. And Jim Kalkloff. And for the Patriots, Paul Flatley. And I remember as a little kid kind of being confused because he obviously is wearing the Viking colors, but he's with the Falcons logo. And of course, at that time, I didn't quite understand being traded from team to team. That didn't make much sense to me. Here you got Dave Edwards, linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. Pretty interesting color mixture. You got the blue top with the blue background, and the silver. Kind of a interesting. Bobby Hunt, Cincinnati Bengals defensive back. Bobby Hunt. And you got Bruce Gossett, a kicker for the LA Rams. Billy Lothridge, kicker for the Atlanta Falcons, number 26. He's kind of studying that ball, getting ready to punt it. And here's another Jim Keys. I have two of my guests. Jim Keys, Miami Dolphins. This is a cool name, Spider Lockhart. He looks like a spider. Spider Lockhart, defensive back, New York Giants. And this guy here is a underappreciated player, Tommy Nobis. I'm sure he's in the Hall of Fame, but he was probably one of the great players on the early Atlanta Falcons, him and Claude Humphrey. But yeah, Tommy Nobis is considered one of the great linebackers of that era. Probably a step below, obviously, Nitschke and Butkus and Bobby Bell from the Chiefs, but Nobis could hold his own. Really good player on the expansion team. Here's a great guy, Bob Lilly from the Dallas Cowboys, one of the greatest defensive tackles, and you can see, unfortunately, I bent the heck out of that card. But yeah, Bob Lilly with the old Cowboy uniform, pretty cool. Great player. I actually just missed a couple weeks ago on a bid for a nice PSA 7 Lilly. Bobby Mitchell, wide receiver, squinting, looking in the sun, but he was a great player. Man, was he ever a good receiver. Just one of the greats of the late 50s, early 60s. And yeah, he's got 12 years as a pro in 69, so he came up in the 50s, but just a great player. Great player. And here's a guy, I don't remember him at all, Ed Meador. Ed Meador from the Rams, number 21. Do not remember this guy at all. I don't remember that card. I don't know where I got the card at, but 11 years as a pro, so he'd been around for a while. Late 50s. And Gary Garrison. Love the Chargers logo. Love the Chargers uniforms. They are bad. Gary Garrison was a really good receiver, too. And he had 4 years, and look at that. He went to college in San Diego State, then he played for the Chargers. Stayed right on home. And you got Tommy Vaughn, defensive back for the Detroit Lions. This guy here was a great player, Otis Taylor from the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a high-stepping wide receiver, Lynn Dawson's favorite target. I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame. He should be. I mean, Otis Taylor was a great player. But he may be one of those guys that's just on the outside of the Hall of Fame, and I can't hardly imagine why. And here's another Tommy Vaughn, defensive back. And then these here are guys that I have that are already slabbed up. I have them in slabs. Earl Leggett, the great name for the linebacker, Steve Stonebreaker. Billy Martin, not the baseball player. Charlie Harper. Bill Munson. Jerry Philbin. And Jerry Philbin. And another Donnie Anderson and a Roy Winston. So there you go. That's my 1969 Part 2 cards that are not PSA. And most of these I would not send off to get graded because they have issues. But they're still part of my collection and I love them. And you know what? As people say, like Chris from Missouri, collect what you like. I like the 1969 Topps football cards. Have a great one, guys. We'll talk to you later.